The rain hammered against the hospital window like angry fists, each drop carrying the weight of Sarah's breaking heart. She pressed her forehead against the cold glass, watching the world blur into watercolor streaks of gray and amber. Behind her, the steady beep of machines marked time in a rhythm that had become both comfort and torment. Her mother lay motionless in the bed, surrounded by tubes and wires that seemed to mock the vibrant woman who had raised 3 children on her own, who had worked double shifts at the diner just to keep food on the table, who had never once complained about the hand life had dealt her. "Mrs. Chen," the nurse's voice was gentle, practiced in delivering news that would shatter worlds. "The doctor would like to speak with you." Sarah turned, her reflection ghost-like in the window. At 34, she felt ancient, worn thin by months of watching her mother fade away. The experimental treatment had been their last hope, but insurance had denied it. Too costly, they said. Not enough evidence of success. As if her mother's life could be reduced to statistics and profit margins. Dr. Martinez entered with that careful expression medical professionals wear when they're about to deliver a verdict. "I'm afraid the latest scans show the progression has accelerated. Without the treatment." He paused, choosing his words like stepping stones across a river. "We're looking at weeks, maybe days." The words hit Sarah like physical blows. She nodded numbly, her mind already calculating. The treatment cost $340,000. She had exhausted her savings, maxed out credit cards, started a GoFundMe that had raised barely $3,000. Her brothers lived paycheck to paycheck, struggling with their own families. There was no miracle coming, no last-minute reprieve. That evening, Sarah sat in her mother's empty apartment, surrounded by the remnants of a life well lived. Photo albums filled with birthday parties and school graduations. A recipe box stained with decades of cooking for others. A sewing basket where her mother had mended clothes for neighbors who couldn't afford new ones. Even facing her own mortality, her mother worried about others. "Promise me something," her mother had whispered that afternoon during one of her lucid moments. "Whatever happens, don't let bitterness eat you alive. The world has enough anger. Be the kindness you want to see." Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Saw your story online. Small donation coming your way. Hang in there." Then another. "Praying for your mom. Wish I could do more." And another. "My grandmother died of the same thing. I know what you're going through." The messages continued trickling in throughout the night. Strangers offering comfort, sharing their own stories of loss and hope. Sarah realized her GoFundMe had been shared on social media, spreading beyond her small circle of friends and family. The donations were still smaller, $5 here, 20 there, but each one came with a message, a human connection across the digital void. By morning, something unexpected was happening. Local news had picked up the story. The anchor, a woman named Patricia whose own mother had battled cancer, spoke with genuine emotion about Sarah's situation. "Sometimes," she said, looking directly into the camera, "we have the power to be someone's miracle. Sometimes kindness is the most revolutionary act we can perform." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Donations began pouring in from across the city, then the state, then the country. But more than money, people were sharing stories. A truck driver from Iowa whose daughter had benefited from experimental treatment. A teacher from Oregon who organized her entire school to contribute. Veterans, students, retirees, single mothers are all finding ways to give whatever they could. Sarah watched in amazement as the total climbed. 50,000, 100,000. 200,000. But it was the messages that truly moved her. People weren't just donating, they were connecting, sharing their own struggles and triumphs, creating a web of compassion that stretched across geographical and cultural boundaries. "Mom," she whispered, holding her mother's frail hand, You need to see this. The whole world is rooting for you." Her mother's eyes fluttered open, still sharp despite the medication. "Not for me, sweetheart. This isn't really about me anymore." Sarah didn't understand then, but she would. A local businessman, moved by the story, matched the online donations dollar for dollar. A pharmaceutical company, facing public pressure and perhaps remembering their own humanity, agreed to provide the treatment at cost. Within 72 hours, they had not only reached their goal but exceeded it. The treatment began immediately. Sarah's mother, weak but determined, endured the grueling procedures with the same quiet strength she'd shown her entire life. The progress was slow, measured in small victories. A good day here, a steady test result there. But she was fighting. And she wasn't fighting alone. Letters arrived daily from around the world. Children's drawings depicting her mother as a superhero. Quilts sewn by church groups. Meals delivered by neighbors Sarah had never met. The hospital room became a shrine to human goodness, decorated with cards and flowers from strangers who had become family. "I don't understand it," Sarah confessed to Dr. Martinez during a follow-up appointment 6 weeks later. "Why did people care so much about someone they'd never met?" The doctor smiled, glancing at Sarah's mother, who was sitting up in bed, color returning to her cheeks. "Because your mother's story became everyone's story. Everyone has loved someone they couldn't save. Everyone has felt powerless against circumstances beyond their control. This time, they could do something about it." But the most profound moment came 3 months later. Sarah's mother had responded better than anyone had dared hope. The tumors were shrinking, her strength returning. She was going to live. "I want to do something," her mother announced one afternoon, her voice stronger than it had been in months. "All these people helped us, and most of them are fighting their own battles. I want to help fight back." Together, they established the Title Her Foundation, named for all the unnamed women who struggle in silence, who sacrifice for others, who deserve to be seen and celebrated. The remaining funds from the GoFundMe became seed money for helping other families facing similar crises. The foundation's first recipient was Maria, a single mother from Texas whose son needed surgery they couldn't afford. Then came David, a grandfather raising his grandchildren after their parents died in a car accident. The ripple effect of kindness that had saved Sarah's mother began creating new waves, touching lives across the country. A year later, Sarah stood before a crowd of 500 donors at the foundation's first annual gala. Her mother, radiant in a blue dress that matched her eyes, sat at the head table, surrounded by some of the strangers who had become family. "My mother taught me that titles don't make us who we are," Sarah said, her voice carrying clearly through the ballroom. "She was never called CEO or senator or doctor. She was just mum to us, that nice lady to her neighbors, the woman with the kind smile to her customers. But she was a hero long before the world knew her name." The audience erupted in applause. But Sarah held up her hand. "The real heroes are in this room tonight. You are the people who proved that compassion isn't weakness, that generosity isn't foolishness, that love multiplied becomes infinite. You didn't just save one life, you saved faith in humanity itself." Later, as the evening wound down, Sarah found her mother standing alone on the hotel balcony, looking out over the city lights. "Any regrets?" Sarah asked, joining her. Her mother was quiet for a long moment, then smiled. "Just one. I regret that it took getting sick for me to understand how beautiful the world really is. All those years I spent worrying about what we didn't have, when we were surrounded by riches I couldn't see." She turned to face her daughter, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Do you know what the greatest gift is? It's not the money or the treatment or even getting well. It's discovering that when you strip away everything else, race, religion, politics, Social status or what remains is our capacity to care for each other. That's what makes us human. The foundation grew, helping hundreds of families, creating a network of support that transcended traditional boundaries. But its greatest success wasn't measured in dollars raised or lives saved. It was measured in the transformation of hearts, in the reminder that kindness is contagious, that hope is stronger than despair, that ordinary people can create extraordinary change. Sarah's mother lived for 5 more beautiful years, each day a gift she treasured and shared. When she finally passed, peacefully in her sleep, the funeral drew thousands. People came from every state, representing every walk of life, united by the memory of a woman who had shown them the power of their own compassion. At the service, Patricia, the news anchor who had first shared their story, delivered the eulogy. She taught us that we don't need titles to be heroes, she said. We don't need wealth to be rich. We don't need fame to make a difference. We just need to remember that every person we meet is fighting a battle we know nothing about. And our choice is simple. We can add to their burden, or we can help carry it. As Sarah scattered her mother's ashes in the garden behind the diner where she had worked for so many years, she whispered a promise to the wind. I'll keep telling your story, Mom. I'll keep reminding people who they really are. The title Her Foundation continues to grow, a living testament to the truth that kindness never dies. It simply finds new hands to carry it forward. And somewhere, in hospital rooms and homeless shelters, in schools and senior centers, in the quiet moments when one human being reaches out to help another, her mother's spirit lives on, proving that the greatest title anyone can hold is simply this: human being.